and make decisions that will bless and benefit those that we serve. We ask this night that Thy Spirit will be with us as we discuss different agenda items, that we might be inspired to do those things that would be to the most benefit of those we serve. We're grateful for our law enforcement and for our first responders, our firefighters, and those that protect us from harm, and ask a blessing upon them. We're grateful for all things. We love Thee, and this we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the states of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, looks like we have the minutes from the last meeting.
I didn't see any corrections, so I'm going to approve unless someone has.
Anybody else see anything that needs to be addressed? Second, maybe have a second. I'll just restate it just in case. So a motion by Councilman Roosevelt and a second by Councilman White. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, motion is unanimous. So we do have our public comment period. This will be a little interesting. Show the on here, so we'll go through it. Okay. Do we have a mic for the podium or this? Anyway, anybody that's here that would like to take an opportunity to address the council can do so. You can utilize it for 3 minutes. Looking for a chance. Are there any that would like to take that? Jimmy? No. All right, seeing none, we'll move forward with our agenda. So the first item that we have tonight is a public hearing for the Griffith annexation. Drew, do you want to go ahead and present that? I think we have an interested party here as well. And tonight we have to hold a public hearing to receive public comment on that. So we'll get us up to speed, Drew will get us up to speed, and then we'll invite.
So what we've got here, and I believe we ran it through you guys for an initial glance here a couple months ago. Through planning and zoning, as far as the annexation, we're looking at doing a R110 to start this ground off with. It's 175 acres, 4 parcels total, 3 parcels total, that's right. So what we're looking for today is basically to start or to finalize our process and send it on to the Lieutenant Governor's office for completion. So we have to have a public hearing and to initiate that process.
Would you state your name for the record?
Wyatt Griffith.
Thank you, Wyatt.
Yeah.
Does it kind of aware of this? Do we have any questions?
I don't.
If we don't have any questions, let's go ahead. I would
I
entertain a
move
motion.
we go into a public hearing.
Okay.
I'll discuss the group
Annexation.
annexation.
We have a motion to go into public hearing. We have a second by Councilman Cloward. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll now consider ourselves in a public hearing. You guys should stay up there because you might get some questions you might have. So, we'll go ahead and just open it to the public. If you have a comment, question, or whatever, if you would, please, this is really gonna get interesting. We would ask you that you would go to the podium and speak into the mic for the public hearing. Yeah. So,
Exactly where, I've got an idea of where it's at, but exactly, can you give us?
can you show us on the screen there, Drew? On the Google view?
So this is the airport here. You can see the airport. We're looking at this parcel here and this parcel here.
Okay, just to the left, that's a road, is that,
Highway 40 runs here.
okay, okay, and right north and south?
Yeah.
Okay, that's street right there, yeah. What street is that?
4,000.
Okay.
Let's see.
So, yeah, you bet. Do we have any, so I found that the best way to do this is, if you have questions, go ahead and ask questions. If you're for the annexation, we'll do that first. And if you're against annexation and you have reasoning, we'll do that next. And then if you just have questions, then we can just address those. So are there any questions or anybody in favor, anybody against?
I think it's a good move.
What this means for the surrounding, it doesn't mean anything necessarily that change for the surrounding property owners. Basically, what this does for Mr. Griffith is having access to city utilities. Johnson Water actually provides water in that area. Roosevelt City would provide sewer in that area. Utility costs would be cheaper to purchase, when you're in city limits versus being outside there 1.5 times. If you're outside city limits, so this would be a benefit to those that are building in that area. Having the utilities allows, what did you say the zoning was again, an
R110.
An R110, so 10,000 square per dwelling, which is about 1/4 of an acre. So it would allow 1/4 acre lots on that piece of property. Am I missing anything? Try to help it. Brian, do you have any? I know you are a property owner and that. Do you have any questions?
Would this allow other property owners to hook up to city sewer?
What happens, so there's a precedence that's been set, and there's been talk with the council of actually putting that into an ordinance. It's adjacent to Roosevelt City property, and you want utilities, then yeah, you can have those, but we ask that you annex in Roosevelt City. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Reason being, obviously, those utilities cost money. Water is a finite resource as well, and so we feel obligated to provide those utilities to our residents. We have provided them to some people, water, particularly not sewer, to people outside the city, but they don't touch Roosevelt City property in any way. But the precedent that has been set is if you own property adjacent to or touching that in Roosevelt City, that yes, you can get those utilities and amenities, but the side is you just need to annex in the city.
So like for me, the farm across 4,000 west, and I wanted to subdivide, I could actually have that sewer run up into my property and then 1/4 acre lots in there.
Yeah.
Subdivide that 1/4 acre lot.
Now, there would be some participation as far as infrastructure, so there might be, you pay for a lot of the infrastructure that would take the sewer line into that area, but yes.
And it's gas, water, and
Sewer.
sewer.
You have to give it the million.
Yeah, the gas isn't, I don't know where the gas is at. It's to the airport road.
It is. That's something you would have to give it the million on.
Sewer and gas in this. Yeah, we're gonna bring all the utilities in.
Yeah, so you're gonna pay to bring the utilities in. And so it'll be at that point, and whoever attaches to them from that point on.
Basically that.
Right.
So is it gonna run up on Strata all the way up through where Tim and them had that property and then under the road up through you?
It's pretty much it's gotta go up the pole line and then right there where my property starts is where it'll follow the road.
Yeah.
Right across to the south.
I think we have to to
The airport.
so you would just connect from the airport and off. It's for the west.
Yeah, if you go through. What's his name?
Right next to
Yeah, it's in Liquor Goods. There's quite a bit. I mean, we're gonna be probably 5,000.
So it'll go up through Jackson Valley too, man.
Oh,
And the main access is gonna be a road.
And so then once that, so will it annex all that property into it, that's where we're going through now?
Well, all the property on the north side of the line right now is already where they're talking about.
He's able to annex it.
Yeah, so,
It's
We're touching, it's just the road, and we'll be touching city limits.
So then you gotta go by Roosevelt City's rules instead of Duchesne County's, if it's part of the city. Like building permits will all run through right now.
Sure. The rules should be very similar. There shouldn't be a whole lot of difference in what you're required to do, except, I will be completely honest. The major difference is roads and sidewalk. So there's a certain expectation we have and rules in place in Roosevelt City where those things are required.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's for the benefit and betterment of the community and the neighborhood, roads and everything.
you also look at great law enforcement.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get some of you guys up there and watch for the speakers.
So I understand there's gonna be two accesses to the property, one through Jimmy's place and the other one around Johnson Water Building.
Can you bring up the plat again? Unless I identify that.
Do you want me to agree? Need a stick, huh?
Yeah, let me just wait.
Yeah.
Gonna be right here.
Yeah.
Is that one line road where he's coming
Yeah.
off this?
Yeah. So the road's gonna come in through here, sewer's gonna be with it, come into here, and then come into this development. And then, Johnson's actually got, there's a gulch there, they're gonna fill in, put a culvert in for us, and then we're gonna come out. So I would assume right here, is that about right?
It's gonna be right here, yeah.
Yeah, it's right in this area.
I basically.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So is that showing Johnson, well, I can't see Johnson Water Building in that, area, it's already.
Yeah,
Their building is roughly right here.
You go east of the building, Jerry?
I think it will be east of the building.
Yeah.
It'll be bordering Johnson's property and
Yeah.
Tables. So they're gonna, just for your tables,
it's gonna have to come in. I think it's, you got,
in road one end.
We'll have to come out on that, overlay right there in that corner. Any other questions here? Is there anybody that's against moving forward with this type of project, with this annexation petition?
One question that was brought up is, if their property touches, are they required to annex in? No. Another question is, if they wanted to annex in, but keep it in Greenbelt, yes, you can.
Yeah.
Your tax bracket will stay the same.
Yeah, the only difference on your property tax, and this is what's interesting with a lot of people that come to Roosevelt City, so your property tax will increase because Roosevelt City gets a very, very, very small portion of property tax. And so your property will increase that small portion. But when you look at the utilities that you're paying, outside of city rates and things like that, 1.5 times those will drop to just the normal rate. We did a study 4 or 5 years ago for an area north of town, and the difference annually was, I think, in city out of city. So it's almost a lot.
Greenbelt, that, all your.
You can have it in Roosevelt City, still have it in Greenbelt. And I think that's probably doesn't change hardly at all.
It's be the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your tax wouldn't change at all to have it in Greenbelt. If you were to subdivide it and things like that, and it took it out of Greenbelt, then your taxes would be a little bit higher. But again, your utilities go.
You gain the utilities are paid 18.
Roosevelt City versus outside of it. So if you have a fire, for example, at your home, and you're in county, you get a bill.
Yeah.
If you have a fire in Roosevelt City, it's free. Law enforcement, obviously you get great law enforcement, and then your utilities, so $18 a year is really inexpensive. It's a cheap insurance. So,
Ryan's properties adjoins the Johnson Water property that's been purchased, and then mine west of that.
okay.
So I will be able to connect to the city sewer, but I have to.
Yeah, well,
Be an island. Yeah.
well, that's the thing, where you weren't connected or adjacent to Roosevelt City property and you wanted sewer, and let's say Ryan, he would have to give you an easement to go through his property, obviously. We necessarily wouldn't have to, but it would be a very hard decision for the council to make. Are we gonna allow sewer connections in that area? Maybe we talk to Ryan and say, would you annex in? We just wanna make sure, we have some issues with Johnson Water, and a lot of them were caused by us, I'm not gonna lie. But because we were extending outside of Roosevelt City boundaries, going into Johnson Water District and things like that. And it's really hard to take care of the infrastructure, and then you get other issues that come down the pipe. So that's why we just ask for annexation when we supply utilities, just because then it saves a lot of headache down the road.
So the development of these properties, how, has it been subdivided already? How big are the lots gonna be?
So we're doing an R110, so 10,000 square per lot. But that's just the starting point. We'll probably adjust them to larger lots, is what we're gonna probably do down the road.
And nothing's been subdivided yet.
Nothing yet.
Initial annexation versus.
So down there where Lansdale were developed, just down here off of Pole Line Road,
Okay.
what are those lots? Are they-
Acre lot, but he's in the county.
Yeah,
Oh,
and they have to be acre because he doesn't have sewers.
so,
That's the
so if that is, them lots are bigger than the ones they're gonna develop in this. This will be down by like the old town.
Yeah,
Out here on State Street, before the gulch.
This will be a little bit bigger than those.
Okay.
They're 6,000. This will be at 10,000.
So you can go bigger lots if you want.
Oh, sure.
Lots or.
yeah, you can always go bigger, you just can't go smaller. That's the minimum size.
So
So
say,
unless you were in an R16 zone, then the proposal is to zone it for an R1. R16 means 6,000 square feet.
It's just you gotta stay within them limits.
Yeah, that's the minimum.
So how big is the R110? How big can you go?
It's as big as you want.
It's at least 5
Just the minimum.
so say if people wanted to buy a lot, like a nice barn in the subdivision was developed,
You have to go an R1,
like in Bluffdale.
which is it's a rural zoning, and it's a 1 acre minimum lot. Then you could do that within city limits. R110 allows for 7 chickens and 2 pigs, and I mean, we have an ordinance that defines what you can have. Yeah, so those types of things.
Well, that's good.
So you can have strong animals in this.
Because you want 5 horses in a
No.
quarter acre lot.
Yeah, we can just charge them a lot of money.
So. Any other questions?
I move we'll go out of public hearing and go into regular session.
We have a motion to go back into regular session. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, good. We're back in regular session. So grateful for the public's input on that. With those recommendations and questions, and how does the council feel as far as moving forward.
Okay.
We have a motion by Councilman White in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes to proceed with the annexation petition. Again, thanks everyone, whatever, just go ahead and get all this through. City planner. So he can add to a lot of those stuff. He's also the complaint department. Good deal. Next item is the gun range final approval. So I thought we were gonna have final approval tonight. One of the things that we talked about, I visited with Grant about, is, nobody wants to hear about strokes.
If it's fun to
That'll be great.
Yeah.
Maybe a little one.
One of the things we're not important, so we've been going back and forth. Very good discussion between the two, and they're agreeable, obviously, to have the gun range within the city limits. The biggest problem is.
Just leave it open a crack. I couldn't hear.
They actually agreed to participate monetarily in the gun range, so they've committed to spend up to $10,000 on the road and up to $10,000 on shooting benches and things like that. So they are in favor of the gun range. The only question mark that we have is our commitment to the roads. They've asked Roosevelt City to improve the road. Major went and visited with them with Jones and DeMille, and before he did that, we met with Eric and talked to him about the road and what we thought was feasible for the price that the council said, which is $50,000 max on that road. And so, using the tailings and things off the gun range and trying to use as much fill, we felt like we could get the road to about 30 foot or 32 foot wide with about 4 inches of road base on that. But we didn't, so we feel like we can do that. That's what was presented to the city. But there has not been an exact or an official acceptance of that. They mentioned, I talked to Bob Abercrombie, and he said, they're not going to hold up. They want to see it move forward. But I feel like it would be important to have some type of contract or memorandum of understanding between the two so that everybody understands the expectations before moving forward. I just don't want to get in the middle of the project and then feel like their expectations were not met, but honestly feel like we're going to does that make sense? So that,
No, I agree. We need to protect ourselves and them. With us.
yeah, for both parties, because we want to come out of this with a good working relationship. So Grant was working on an MOU. It's not quite done. I was thinking a contract, but I think the MOU is much better. So it's just a memorandum of understanding that each party, what the expectation is for each party. So we were gonna have that ready tonight for approval, but it's just in draft form tonight, and he said he was gonna email